In this video, you'll see how to order monographs in WorldShare Acquisitions. A monograph is a resource in any format, complete in a single part, or intended to be complete in a finite number of parts. We'll add a single-part monograph and a multi-part monograph to a purchase order in this video. To start out, you'll need to first search for a record in WorldCat for the item you wish to order. If a record doesn't exist in WorldCat, you'll need to create a record, which can be a brief-level record, to use for ordering. This can later be upgraded after you've received the item to a full-level, more complete record. Next, you'll need to add the item to an existing open purchase order, or you can create a new purchase order for the item or items you're ordering. For the acquisitions type, you'll need to select one time since it's a monograph, and for the processing type, you'll need to select monograph for a single part item or serial if you're ordering a multi-part monograph. Optionally, you can add an order item template when you add an item to a purchase order. Order item templates need to be created before the ordering process, and they could include a fund, a discount, a location, and several other fields. The final steps in the order process are to review, edit, and place the order. When you place an order in acquisitions, the amounts in the fund you have designated will move from the available balance to the encumbered amount for that fund. So to show you how this works in WMS Acquisitions, I have two titles that I want to order. The first is a single-part monograph, While Justice Sleeps by Stacey Abrams. The second title is a multi-volume set, The Gale Encyclopedia of Medicine. So I've logged on to WMS, and to search WorldCat for a record for my first title, I'll click Discover Items. Next, I'll click the Index drop-down, and I'll select the ISBN indexed. If you have a number, such as an ISBN, it's always best to use that for your search, as it will likely give you more precise results than a keyword search. So I'll enter the ISBN for the title, While Justice Sleeps, and then I'll click Search, or you can just hit Enter on your keyboard. My search results in 5 records. I can refine the search by using the facets on the left, so I'll select English for the language of cataloging. Now I have 4 records. I'll also select the Format facet, Print Book. I can see that the third record is a DLC, Library of Congress record. And if I hover over the blue eye, I can see some additional bibliographic information. To use this record in my order, I'll click Add To, and then I'll select Order. On the Add Item to Order screen, I'll check that the acquisitions type is set to one time and the processing type is set to monograph, as it should be for a single part monograph. Next, I'll click the ISBN drop-down. The only option is for the hardcover ISBN, so it doesn't matter if I select the 13-digit or the 10-digit ISBN. Next, I'll apply an order template. I'm going to select the main new books template, on which I've saved my monographs fund and my main new book shelving location. Next, I could either add this title to an existing open order, or I could create a new order. I'll create a new order, so I'll click New Order. On the Add New Order screen, I'll give my order a name, so I'll type in New Books, May 21. Next, I'll click the Order Type drop-down, and I'll select Purchase Order. Next, I'll start typing the first few characters of my vendor, Robinson's Books, and when it appears in the drop-down, I'll click it to select it. For tax handling, I'll leave it set to the default Tax Item Cost, and then I'll click Save. The system assigns a PO number and confirms that my new purchase order has been created. And if I scroll down, you can see my new purchase order is now available to use. So I'll click Add in the Action column to add this title to the order. And now you can see that the number of items has incremented to 1. Next, I want to add my second title, the 9-volume Encyclopedia of Medicine, to my order. I have the ISBN for the 9-volume set, so I'll enter that and then click Search. My search retrieves 7 records. The first record is for the print edition, and I can see that it's a DLC record. I'll hover over the blue eye to view the additional bibliographic information. And I can see from the physical description that this is a record for the whole 9-volume set. So I'll click Add To and then select Order. For the acquisitions type, one time is correct, but for the processing type, I need to change this from the default monograph, which is just for single part monographs. So I'll click the drop down and I'll select serial. This is the correct processing type for both multi-part monographs and for print serials. Next, I'll click the ISBN drop down, and I want to select the ISBN for the whole set. The main new books template is still selected from when I added the previous item, but I want to deselect it for this item since it will have a different location. So I'll click the template drop down, and I'll just click in the white space at the top of the list to deselect the template. My new purchase order is still displaying at the bottom of the screen, so I can just click Add in the Action column, and the items for this order increments to 2. If I'm finished adding items to this purchase order, the next step is to review, edit, and place the order. I can go directly to the order by clicking either the order name or the PO number on this screen. Or if I come back later, I can find the order by clicking Orders on the left panel. And then I would click Orders again. And then I can either search for my order or use the filters to find my order. I'm going to do a search by the name of my order, New Books, May 21, and then I'll click on Search. To view and edit the order, I'll click on the order name. Note that the status is open, so I could continue adding titles to this order if I wanted to. I could also edit the name of the order and the vendor. There's a new option to add an external order ID. This can be used to store a unique identifier for the order from an external financial system. And this number will appear on the order that is transmitted to the vendor as well. So I'll enter an external order ID here. Next, I'll scroll down to take a look at the items on the order. At this point, if I need to change the record I'm using for the order item, I could hover over the blue eye for one of the items, and I could click Change Resource. But I'll keep the record that I've chosen for this title. I want to add a unit price for each of these titles, so I'll click in the price text box, and I'll add $17.11 for the first title, and then I'll add $12.50 for the 9-volume encyclopedia. If I hover over the fund for the first item, you can see the encumbered, expended, and remaining balance for this fund. The fund for the first item was populated from the template I applied, but I'll need to add a fund for the encyclopedia. So I can click the fund drop-down, and I could select a fund. But let's say I want to split the cost for this item between 2 funds. So I'll click Assign Multiple Budgets Funds, and then on the budget and fund assignment, I'll leave it set to Allocate by Percentage. And then I'll click the Fund drop-down and select Books Monographs Fund. To add another fund, I'll click the green circle in the Action column. And then I'll click the Funds drop-down again, and I'm going to select the Books Reference Fund for my second fund. Then I'll change the percentage allocated to 50% for the first fund and 50% for the second fund. And then I'll click on Save. Now I want to apply a discount that I receive from the vendor to each item. So I'll click the checkbox at the top to select all items. Then I'll click the Update Items drop-down and I'll select Discount. And then I'll type in 10% and click Recalculate. And now you see the discount has been applied to each item and the total has been recalculated. You can also edit from the individual item screen. So I'll click on the title of the second item, the encyclopedia, and I want to edit the shelving location. So I'll click the Location tab, and then I'll click the Location drop-down, and I'll select Main Reference. To go back to the order screen, I'll click the Order tab, and then I'll click the PO number, and now I'm back on my order screen. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to click the checkbox for this first item, Display in WorldCat. This will allow the item to display as an on-order item in Discovery. And if my library allows it, holds could be placed on an on-order item. Note that you can only display single-part monographs as on-order in Discovery. So that option is not available for the multi-volume encyclopedia. Now I'm ready to place the order, so I'll click Place Order. The system responds, you're about to place this order. And if I want to send the order to the vendor, I will need to make sure that Notify Vendor is checked. You can set the default for notifying the vendor on the vendor's record. Next, I'll click Continue. I'll leave the method set to Email HTML, and I'm going to click Preview Email before sending, and then I'll click Continue. And here on the email preview, you can see the order information, including the external ID that I added. And if I scroll down, you can see the items on the order and the calculated amounts and the total price. I'll click Place and Send Order now. And then I'm returned to the order screen. And I can see that the status has changed from open to placed. Additionally, the amounts for each of the funds I indicated now have moved from the remaining balances to the encumbered amounts for those funds. If you have any questions, you can find contact information for OCLC support, as well as additional training and documentation at help.oclc.org.